I've already got started in number 6b, where it's still asking us to solve the triangle. And what I've noticed so far is that we have side, side, side. So what that means for us to do is we need to find the largest angle first with the law of cosines. So with a slight manipulation of the formula for the law of cosines, I can figure out what the angle is. So what I'm going to do is first determine the largest side. Well, the largest side is 21.1 feet. That's, I think, pretty obvious. So that means that the largest angle is directly across from it, angle C. So if I manipulate the law of cosines formula for angle C, I have big C, or angle C, is equal to cosine inverse of this big fraction. C squared minus A squared minus B squared divided by negative 2AB. I want to caution you that if you're going to use your calculator and try to plug it all in at once, you're going to need more parentheses in there. You're going to want a set of parentheses here, as well as on the bottom here. I'd recommend just doing part by part, figure out what the numerator is, figure out what the denominator is, take those two values and divide them, then take the cosine inverse. But if you want to try to do it all at once, make sure you have a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 parentheses present. Okay, so moving on, I'm going to go ahead and substitute my values in for C, A, and B, which I already have in the diagram here. That's just all the sides. When I do that, I get an angle of 109.9 degrees. So angle C, I just kind of boxed it in all together, is 109 degrees, 109.9 degrees. So then in order to figure out the other missing angles, first I'm going to use the law of sines, and then I'm just going to use the angle sum formula, which just tells us that all the angles have to add up to 180. So if I use the law of sines, I'll figure out what angle B is first, just by preference. You don't have to do it in any particular order. I just chose to do it this way. 21.1 divided by the sine of 109.9. Again, just a reminder, make sure your calculator is in degree mode. 15.9 divided by the sine of B. And when we do our cross multiplication, we end up getting the sine of B is equal to, oh, I'm sorry, I don't have that actually written down. I just have what the final answer is. So let's take a look on the calculator and see what that is. Make sure I'm in the right mode. I'm not in the right mode. I need to be in degree mode. So I'm going to scroll down, jump over. Okay, so I'm going to cross multiply and then divide. So 15.9 times the sine of 109.9 divided by 21.1. Okay. So we get 0.709. We take the inverse of both sides. I got a final answer of 45.1 degrees. Let's go do it on the calculator and see what we get, just to double check. Again, I'm going to hit second sign of my decimal, 0.709, and we get 45.15 degrees. I think when I originally did the problem, I just plugged in the entire decimal, so my rounding was slightly different. Really, we should round this to 45.2, but as long as you're pretty close, that's completely fine. And then, again, I'm going to add the two angles that we have, C and B, together, subtract them from 180, and we get angle A is equal to 25 degrees. So we have all the missing pieces. Okay, so the last triangle problem. Just going to move this triangle up to give us a little bit more room. Okay, there we go. Alright, so this time we're given an angle, side, angle. So what angle, side, angle tells us to do is just to start off by finding the remaining sides with the, find the remaining angle. So find angle. You only have one to find this time. Then use law of cosines. Law of sines. So we just set up our proportions. B is equal to B over the sine of 51 degrees is equal to 28 divided by the sine of 103. We cross multiply, divide, we get a final answer of B is equal to 22.3. Our units are meters. Except for another proportion, A divided by the sine of 26 degrees is equal to 28. I'm going to use the same proportion here as I did in the last part. When we cross multiply and divide, we get a value of A is equal to 12.6 meters. And then I kind of strayed from my previous direction. I said find the angle, so I maybe could have done that first, but I didn't show the work for it here. But we're going to assume that, okay, well, all three angles are going to add up to 180. So that means that this angle has to be 103. So sorry, I kind of skipped that step in the very beginning, but I did include it in the problem down here. So sorry if you were a little lost for a second. Okay, so we have everything for both of those problems.